Okay, good morning. Welcome. This is the State of the Nation, reaching you from the People's 105.5 FM Abuja. Happy to have you join us. This is a weekly program where we examine where we are with things in Nigeria, and we talk with stakeholders, leaders, politicians, every shade of opinion molders in Nigeria, as we have that dialogue to make the country a better place. We look at where we are and where we are headed, where we should be headed and where we should be. And then those people who are able to examine things and say, this is what it is, will be here to talk to us. We've been telling you that our guest today is Obong Victor Attah. Before I bring him on the microphone, some background of who he is will suffice. It's easy to say, oh, everyone knows him, but let's peel back some of the layers of the gentleman. He's Obong Victor Bassey Attah, who was born on November 20, 1938 in Okop Ndwa Erong in Ibesipo Asutan LGA, Akwa Ibom State. He's someone who studied architecture at Leeds College of Arts and then got a postgraduate diploma from the Liverpool University, both in the UK. He went on to do a master's degree in advanced architectural design and planning at Columbia University, USA. And he's also studied at the Harvard Kennedy School of Governance. He has practiced architecture in the Caribbean, in the USA, and here in Nigeria. At a time, he was the president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. And Obong Victor Attah is a founding member of the People's Democratic Movement, which later got into the People's Democratic Party and was elected as the Governor of Akwa Ibom State and served meritoriously from 1999 to 2007. He's credited with what is seen as the renewal and rebirth of Akwa Ibom, which is evident today. Now, Obong Victor Attah has been involved in so many things after living life. He has living political life. He's done so many things in the private sector, especially being a member of the Executive Action, which is a consultancy firm for operations in complex environment, and is regarded as the one who has fashioned the turnaround of many parts of Nigeria, especially Akwa Ibom State. They love him so much in Akwa Ibom State, they named the Akwa Ibom State Airport after him. Well, Obong Victor Attah has since not been active in political life. He's one of those who know when to take a bow, especially when the ovation is loudest. Currently, he's a member of the Patriots, which is a group of eminent Nigerian statesmen and women who want a better Nigeria. The roll call of members of the Patriot include Chief Ameka Anyoko, Professor Anthony Kila, Senator Shehu Sani, Dr. Bilkisu Megoro, Major General Ike Wanchuku, Professor Anya Anya, Remy Shonaya, so many to mention. If I start mentioning names, I might omit some names. But we have flesh and blood with us in the studio here. Obong Victor Attah, who is actually a member of the 17-member Constitutional Advocacy Committee of the Patriots. Obong Victor Attah, good morning, sir. Great pleasure and privilege to have you join us.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
So, so many things for us to talk about, but before we actually get down to the issue of the Patriots, we've reeled out your CV. You've schooled at the best schools anyone could attend in the world, and you've excelled in the private sector. Tell us a little bit of the magic you brought to Akwa Ibom, which you are now being referred to as the father of modern Akwa Ibom. Your boys, they are men though, but for you they are boys, those whom you groomed, are all being held as having been doing well since you bowed out from the governorship of Akwa Ibom.
Well, one of the things that I brought to Akwa Ibom was the vision to develop the state. And this was born out of the fact that I grew up there. I know the place intimately. And luckily for me, as a practicing architect and town planner, my firm, Interdesigns Partnership, was engaged by the then military administrator, the very first one, Colonel Tunde Obeya, to prepare a master plan for the development of the capital city and a regional plan for the entire region. So I came familiar with what the needs were and what we're supposed to do. And that helped quite a lot. And I'm pleased to say that successive governments have indeed tried to the extent that they could to follow that master plan.
After your governorship, you didn't decide to go to the Senate or do anything else. Is it that the system left you out, or you decided to take a bow?
Well, I didn't go into governance as a young man. By the time I was 60 is when I was campaigning to be governor. So I was, as they call, ancestral governor to start with. So, and quite honestly, I've always insisted that I was a professional in politics, not a professional politician. So I tried to go back to my profession, and that story is rather sad because my attempt was met with a lot of insults and abuses from the public who said, this man was governor, why is he still doing this thing? And I said, you can't describe my profession as this thing. I love my profession, I enjoy practicing it. It kept me alive and prosperous, I may say, all these years. He could do so again. So please don't abuse my profession. But that's the unfortunate thing about Nigeria. They think that once you occupy office, you must enrich yourself so that you don't need to work again after you leave office. And that's very sad and very unfortunate.
All right, but just to point out that Obong Attah is currently 87, but he could pass for a 50-year-old. Your Excellency, let's look at the Patriots. That's why you're here, actually. The Patriots who are trying to see a Nigerian rebirth. Talk to us. What exactly is the goal of the Patriots? What are they looking for?
Patriots are looking for a better Nigeria through restructuring, through the enactment of a new constitution made by Nigerians for Nigerians. And believe me, this is not new. I brought a short paper here, which if you permit me to read, I would love to. Please do. And this paper was presented on the 27th of January in Port Harcourt, because the similar summit, as the Patriots are calling, was called on that day, but it was called by the South people. And it was called Call for National Dialogue, which is what we are trying to do on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of next month.
July.
The Patriots, yes, of July. So this talk about changing Nigeria is not at all new. If you let me read this paper, you'll see how old it is. So let me read it, therefore. And this is the paper I presented on the 27th of January 2018, 7 years ago, at Port Harcourt. And it reads, the need to restructure Nigeria has by now been well established. And it has come about as a result of a careful examination of what we were before, what we are now, and what we hope to be in future. Starting with the present, it is safe to say that there is a general consensus that it has never been this bad. Believe me, it has gotten worse. Is the fault in ourselves? Partly yes, but more in the unitary system of governance that was imposed on this country, which should be a country that should be practicing a federal system. As Dr. Obong puts it, the centralization policy framework that drives the federal system in Nigeria is incongruous with federalism and is therefore responsible for all the problems presently plaguing the country, directly or indirectly. Restructuring is the response to the anti-federalist diversion seeking for the reordering of Nigeria by granting more power, autonomy, resources, and responsibilities to the states and local governments, and creation of new centers of growth and prosperity through regional integration. Regional integration here does not suggest a return to the regions as we had them, or the constitution of 6 geopolitical zones into new federating units. After all, our previous success with federalism was not predicated on the individual size or number of regions. What is being referred to is the formation of such regional bodies as Brest, which means Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and Edo. Such a commission has been established in the South-South, and DAWN, which stands for Development Agency for Western Nigeria, which have been formed in the Western region. And while the South is also struggling with the formation of SENEC, and SENEC stands for Southeast Nigeria Economic Commission. And I went on to say in that paper that perhaps it was time for NDDC, the New Nigeria Development Corporation, which was formed to encompass the entire North, but whose assets have since been shared, to re-emerge as 3 development commissions for each of the 3 zones in the North. Interesting thing about this paper, it was written 7 years ago, but it's only this year that we have the
all these geopolitical development commissions
being formed.
So like they took a cue from your paper. I was going to ask you that. Good thing that you've actually decided to highlight that part.
So it means, therefore, that this was not a bad idea. And I will continue to read the rest of the paper, and I wish all of it would be implemented, because we would see a better Nigeria by far. The rest of the paper reads, what restructuring seeks to change is what the Deputy Senate President, Ike Karamadu, has described as feeding bottle federation, which has turned all of us, and I'm not talking about just a particular section of the country, but all of us, into incapacitated, non-productive babies waiting to suck from the breast of an abused and long-suffering mother, whose milk we know is fast losing value and in fact drying up. I'm referring here to the oil wells. And the fact that all we are doing is draining the oil, which very soon will have no value. Restructuring, and I put this in capital, must not, therefore, be seen as a demand for a previously unknown Nigeria. What we demand is a return to a Nigeria that we all had before, Nigeria that worked for human progress and development. Today, Nigeria is not only stagnated, it is alarmingly retrogressing. When one commodity accounts for more than 80% of our entire foreign earnings, when we can no longer feed ourselves, contractors are not being paid, civil servants are being owed salaries, and pensioners are a forgotten breed, are we not approaching the threshold of a failed state? How did this come about? Because we exchanged a federal system that worked, a system that encouraged creativity, productivity, and competitiveness. We exchanged it for a unitary system that changed us into drones. In the wake of recent and persistent killings all over the country, Governor Attah of Benue State was accused of forming an army to defend his people. While the governor has denied the presence of such an army in the state, Wantra Paul Unongo, God rest his soul in peace, has insisted that the state might be forced to do just that if the central government failed to protect its people. Don't forget that recently, our revered General Danjuma has lent his voice to this business of self-defense. He is encouraged by the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development, Solomon Dalong, who recently condemned state governors for abdicating responsibility in providing security for the people. He tasked the governors to use their security votes to secure the lives and property of their people, instead of relying wholly on the federal government to do it for them. In the absence of state police, which a federal system would have provided, how else can this be done other than by the formation of militia in the meantime? How else can this be done other than by the formation of militia? In the meantime, Governor Fayose of Ekiti State assembled the hunters in his state to prepare them to defend their citizens. IPOD has been tagged a terrorist group and proscribed after a macabre python dance. Its strident voice has therefore been muffled. But does that mean that we have heard the last from IPOD? The Avengers and other militant groups in the Niger Delta have been lying low, but are beginning to growl. The Hydra-headed Boko Haram keeps mutating and popping up in the most unexpected places. The Yorubas, after 20 years, have just installed a new Are Ona Kakamfo. This was written 7 years ago.
Yes,
don't forget.
We understand the context, yes, sir.
Herdsmen continue their devastating inhuman rampage unchecked. Arms and ammunition continue to flow freely into the country. Now the presidency has admitted that a number of states in this country have been infiltrated by the Islamic State fighters. Have we stopped to wonder how Somalia got into the state that it is today? My appeal, therefore, is that we stand with the Emma Lamido Sanusi of Kanu and insist, and I quote what he said, we cannot continue to live in denial of need for restructuring. And that's the point that the patriots are making very firmly. I feel pain when I hear people say they are not afraid or intimidated by the demand for restructuring. Restructuring is not meant to intimidate anybody. It is meant to establish in us a fair, just, and productive nation, a nation of equal opportunities, even if we admit that equality of opportunities does not suggest equality of means. To achieve our purpose of restructuring this country, everybody needs to be carried along. I have heard the President of the Senate, Senator Bukola Saraki, say that members of the National Assembly are crucial to the call for restructuring. In fact, he insisted that restructuring cannot happen without the National Assembly. I could not agree more. I also agree wholeheartedly with the Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, Speaker of the House of Representatives, who said that as elected representatives of the people, they are bound to fulfill the wishes of those who elected them. To do otherwise would be to create a situation in which the servant is greater than the master. I emphasize this point because everybody that talked about restructuring has said our problem is with the National Assembly. National Assembly will never agree. But the National Assembly are representatives of the people, and they should and are obligated to bow to the will of the people. I have therefore been encouraged by the statement attributed to the same Senate President, a statement he said to have made at the meeting of Northern Senators, which was ostensibly called to tackle their Southern counterparts. He is claimed to have said, I have no doubt in my mind that we, as leaders, need to do more work. We need to carry out analysis and research to be able to pick the substance from the sentiments. I say this because the last constitutional review, there were items that were rejected, for example, devolution of power. But upon reflection, we realized that it was actually not inimical to the interests of the people. That's the statement by the then Senate President Bukola Saraki. He went on to say, on the economic front, whatever it will take to bring about growth and development is what must be done. Economic diversification is not just a buzzword. It is a real-life transition that must be made if we are to deliver the dividends of democracy to our people. So productivity and development must come, and it can only come through the practice of true federalism. Even if I tried, I could not have made a better case for restructuring, save to add that to the extent that the federating units are disconnected from the umbilical cord that binds them to the center, to that extent will we diminish our area of conflicts, so that to the same extent we will have harmony and real growth in the country. What is happening today is that the states, which are the federating units, have been turned into vassals of the federal government, and that should not happen in a federal system. Autonomy, independence, and management of the resources must come back as it did before if we want this country to develop. All this can be accomplished through dialogue, meaningful dialogue, the findings of which will be binding on all of us and on this government as well as succeeding government. That suggests a conference to decide how we want to be governed. I have said it time and time again that no group of people, not to mention a whole country, diverse country like Nigeria, will agree to come together and stay under rules that are made by somebody else. and we know that this constitution was given to us as a military edict from the military. That's not what should be. When the military came into power, they claimed they suspended our constitution. Suspended. They didn't abolish it. So when they left, what should have happened is that they should have returned our constitution to us. But instead, they gave us an edict. Said, this is how you must govern yourself. Nobody wants to stay in a group unless they have contributed to the terms and conditions of staying together in that group. And this is where the constitution, which is illegal, which is a fake document, must be changed. And they must be replaced by a constitution that's made by Nigerians for Nigerians so that it will serve the purpose of Nigeria. I therefore suggest that the National Assembly should make a law to convoke a national dialogue. The law should spell out who should attend, the method of election or selection of the conference delegates, the time frame and conduct of their deliberations. Such a law would guarantee the legitimacy of the conference. With that, further amendments to the present constitution should cease immediately because they serve no purpose. When the conference has concluded the deliberations, its findings, without any alterations, must be subjected to a national referendum, and the outcome of which will give Nigeria a new constitution made by Nigeria for a new Nigeria, a born-again Nigeria, if I may say. The function of the National Assembly at that stage will be to repeal the decree that had brought the 1999 Constitution into existence and make a new law that would promulgate this new Constitution as the supreme law of the land. That way, sovereignty would have been restored to the people, and there'll be no more conflict or disputes between federating units. The imperative for such a new constitution was given by the then president of the Nigerian Bar Association in August 2013, way back in 2013. Wale said, the constitution as it currently operates does not reflect the people's yearnings and aspirations. Ordinary amendments to its provisions may not necessarily cure the fundamental flaws in it. There is therefore a dire need for a people-oriented constitution which will be subjected to a national referendum and will be self-enforcing. That was the statement by the then president of the Bar Association.
Wale Olanipekun.
No, was...
No.
Alpha, Wale, yes. No, Olanipekun. It was Wale from Rivers State.
Oh, okay, Wale.
Yeah,
okay.
Wale, yes.
Okay, all right, great.
For several reasons, the suggestion that the outcome of the conference or of the referendum should be handed over to the National Assembly for debate must be rejected. To do that will automatically grant the legislators the right to accept or reject whatever they choose. Apart from the fact that such a process would be extremely time-consuming, as it must not only go through the National Assembly, but also all the 36 state houses of assembly, it is unthinkable that an assembly elected by the people should now be given the right to override the people who elected them in the first place. That certainly will make nonsense of the concept of sovereignty, which ultimately in a democracy must reside with the people. Let me conclude. This was my conclusion of that paper. Let me conclude with this short statement that whoever at this point wants to stand against restructuring must consider himself or herself an enemy of the unity, peace, and progress of this country. That's how I ended the paper. And I believe it is still so very relevant today that I thank you for giving me the opportunity to go through all of it, lengthy as it is. But I think it lays out what the patriots are determined to do now, to hold a national summit that will look at all these issues, and they'll take in also the issue of how people get elected. How to return sovereignty to the people is one of the most critical things that we must look at, because today our votes don't count. Anybody that wants to contradict me is not being honest. Our votes don't count. Listen to what somebody said. We have an elected governor, and somebody said, I wanted to sack him, but the president saved him by declaring state of emergency. So a person can sack a governor that was elected by the people. Then we had another one say, I've advised governors, when you want to give over power, don't give power to people who are not anxiously looking for it, because they would not. So this thing is being given. It's being allotted. It's not, the people are not voting. The votes of the people don't matter anywhere. We must return sovereignty to the people so that their votes matter, so that the votes count, and they should be the ones to elect, truly elect who they want to lead or govern them.
All right, Your Excellency, that was quite a lengthy one, but quite very illuminating. There are so many issues we would need to interrogate in those issues, but we have a commercial break. When we come back, we would actually start taking a look at some of those issues you've raised, and then probably also you bring them to bear on what exactly the patriots want done and how it's to be done, even though you spelled out some of it there, but let's give it a little more flesh. We'll be back after this commercial break. Stay with us. Just in case you're joining us, you're still tuned to the People's 105.5 FM Abuja, and the program still is State of the Nation, and my name is Maddox. I'm your regular host, and today we are being joined by a distinguished gentleman, an elder statesman. He's almost a nonagenarian. He's getting close to 90. 87-year-old Obong Victor, Attah, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, and a member of the advocacy committee of the patriots who are seeking a new constitution for Nigeria to get Nigeria back to where it is supposed to be. And he actually took his time to read what I would call a lecture that actually spells out the entire raison d'etre of what the patriots want to do. Now, Your Excellency, thank you for your patience. Thanks for staying. Now, the first question I'm going to ask, based on what you've read out, you interchangeably use the expressions new constitution and restructuring. Does it mean that in your books, on the books of the patriots, that constitutional amendment, or probably a fresh, I don't know, is it an entirely new constitution or an amendment of the current one? Does that translate to restructuring?
No, we are quite clear on the issue of the constitution. We cannot amend what is so fundamentally bad. We need a completely new constitution. And we want a constitution that let me put it this way. No Nigerian come together to be poor. No Nigerians agreed to come together to be massacred. Because of insecurity. No Nigerians agreed to come together to go the kind of suffering that we're going through now. But I don't want to blame it on this government, because it started right from the beginning. You said quite rightly that I was a founding member of PDP, because we started from PDM, became PDP and so on. And in fact, the G34 was part of that formation. Because we did it too. I remember Senator Wahab Dosumu. We went and pitched him. I'm from the AD. And thought, we had done something great because we've been able to take a major person from another party. We went and took, God rest, Dosumu is now not with us, but God rest his soul in peace. We went and took Vincent Obalafo, the person that gave Ojikalu the toughest run in the governorship election in Abia. We made him a minister, then a national secretary, then national chairman of the party. It shows that the parties don't even know what they're doing. When I tried to say this at the Board of Trustees, I was shouted down. But
are you still a member of PDP, though?
No. I'm not a member of any party at all, whatever. And I'm too old to belong to any party. I'm an elder statesman. I'm prepared to serve this country as a person who has experienced quite a bit of what is bad and what could be corrected. And therefore, I have a good opinion on certain things, but not from any political platform. Because, after all, the instability within the parties just don't mean anything. What did President Tinubu said on this morning that that the coalition is made of IDPs, internally displaced persons from various parties. But even his own party is made of IDPs. Look at all the people that was not so long ago in PDP that are now in APC and holding forth and being the people directing the affairs in APC. So, as I described it one time, there's a lot of instability within the parties. And so long as the parties are unstable, so will the polity be. Because we have refused to have things like independent candidature. Why should we refuse to have independent candidature? So what we are saying is...
That goes to the heart of how we recruit leaders, leadership recruitment. You hinted at that in the paper you read out.
Thank you very much. And you see, when we had a parliamentary system, leadership recruitment meant you grow within the party recognizes that you are in a position to implement their philosophy and their principles and be able to serve the people according to how they think the people should be served. But today you can jump from there and form a coalition somewhere, so long as then you become the leader of that party. That is not what a party should be. That is not a party at all. It's just a platform for getting a ticket to contest an election. And therefore, the instability starts right from within because none of the parties have any internal democracy. Otherwise, certain sort of the things that we see happening, a party will not even know who its chairman is or who its secretary is, and so on. How can that be? So we want a completely new constitution made by the people that will bring in certain safeguards. And those safeguards will make sure, particularly, that the sovereignty returns to the people, they're able to elect freely who they want, and there is productivity. There must be competition. So long as there's no competition and we're doing this feeding bottle method that you could describe, there can be no growth. Because you just know every month a certain amount of money must come to you, just by being a state. Whether you produce or you don't produce does not matter. And so if it is not large enough, you make do with it. If it is large enough, you try and do something with it. But there's no incentive for you to in any way produce. Without productivity, without that incentive, and without competitiveness, Nigeria cannot make progress.
Your Excellency, so, basically, the people in the Constitution is a lie. We, the people, didn't make it. And that's why you're advocating for a confab, a kind of conference where the right kind of people will be nominated. But people will be quick to tell you, we've had them in the past. Abacha did his, Jonathan did his. They didn't lead us anywhere. What's the guarantee that another one would lead us to that people's constitution we're desirous of?
No, but Abacha did it. What came out of it? It was a military edict. It was not what the people decided. Jonathan did it, and nothing at all came out of it because he left it too late.
And you're advocating for another one?
No, what we're saying is that when Buhari came, he totally threw away what Jonathan did. Yes. Because he said it was a Jonathan conference. Because there was no backing.
No legal backing.
They were saying the National Assembly, who are the elected representatives of the people, must pass a bill to convoke this conference. Because without that, you see, we transfer our sovereignty to them. They're the ones administering our sovereignty for us. So they say, they cannot be two sovereign or bodies. That's why they are suggesting that when this conference initiates, they bring it to them. No. What we are saying is that they should pass a bill to convoke this conference. And when that happens, that conference will have the sovereign right to sit down and prepare a proper constitution, and it must have a representation from all the ethnic nationalities and all the sociocultural groups, so that it is a Nigerian constitution. The we, as you pointed out, is completely fake, completely wrong. That's why we say it is a false document, because it was an edict. And it says, at the end of this edict, there's an addendum that can be cited as the Nigerian constitution. That's what that edict says. But when you now open the constitution and say, oh, we the people of Nigeria, why? That's just a blatant lie. The people of Nigeria never sat down to, and we know the history, so we can, since we are talking openly, we can talk openly. Nigeria was fragmented, Nigeria was divided, Nigeria was like an domestic society, had perpetual at war with itself. So some people who were asked to help the military write this edict decided that if we have a strong person that can hold the country together, maybe there'll be peace. That is wrong.
So that's why people say the Nigerian presidency is designed for strong people.
That's it, and then it has failed because you now create a dictator that can become a monster and do exactly whatever he pleases, and that is not what we want. We want a democracy, and that democracy can only come out of a federal arrangement.
But the current administration, even you pointed out, it looks like they've been taking some of their current actions from your playbook, like the regional commissions. So if we see a situation where some of these things that are being clamored for, the government through either subsidiary legislation or constitutional amendments have this implemented, don't you think we could achieve it rather than going through another long conference, calling everybody together? We all seem to know the issue. You people like you have put this kind of documents forward. Is it not better just to ask the president to have the political will and do these things?
Well, it cannot be piecemeal. That's my position. Today they are shouting for state police. How long ago did I not start for state police? We cannot think, oh, this one is necessary today, we do it today. The other one is necessary tomorrow. Let's do a comprehensive rewrite of this constitution that will bring in certain safeguards that don't exist in the present constitution. And we will not be a big conference. I will not take any. In fact, in 6 months, this can be done. Even including the referendum, which they say is not in the constitution. In 6 months, it can be done because all the parameters, all the framework has been discussed and agreed for over time. But a matter of the implementation, that's just lacking. If we can just create a small college of people to do this, then we subject it to a referendum. That's where the will of the people will be exercised. That referendum will give us a constitution by Nigerians for Nigeria. The we in the present constitution is just a blatant lie.
Your Excellency, the patriots went to see the president, the current president, President Bola Tinubu, last year and presented the idea to him that we need a fresh constitution. He gave a non-committal answer from the way I read it. In the event that the president does not decide to toe the path that your group has put forward, what are you going to do? You just go back to your homes and say you've tried? Or are you going to do anything else to force the hands of the political class, since they don't have the political will, to do what your group considers the right thing?
Is the president representing himself? He was put there by votes of the people. And if the people say this is what he should do, the president, if he's not a dictator, if not going against the will of the people, should do what the people want him to do. That's how I look at it. And this particular president is in the best position to do it because he suffered the consequences of the type of thing that this constitution allows to happen. His local government money was seized unconstitutionally.
For 4 years or thereabouts.
So he's the one that really is in the best position to do it. And I'm really sincerely hoping that he will do it. He will see the need to do it because if he doesn't do it, he will have left a worse Nigeria than he met it.
So let me also, as an adjunct to it, so in the case he doesn't do it, there's a coalition that is trying to come into place to oust the current president and the ruling party. Will the patriots at the time maybe decide to adopt a candidate or a platform to produce a candidate or a government that will be willing to listen to them and do what they want? Is that an option that could be on the table for the patriots?
I don't know. Until the patriots are having their conference on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of this next month, then we can talk about that. But patriots are not bound to any particular party. And it'd be difficult to say that the patriots will the patriots, we have people from various political backgrounds,
yes.
the important thing is that we have a common goal of changing Nigeria and making it a better place. And we feel that the easiest and fastest way to do it is through. I have my own opinion, and even, so maybe I shouldn't air it. But since you've asked the question, I air it. I feel that the parliamentary system saved us better. Quite so honestly,
we should switch to the parliamentary system.
That's my feel, because it made
have
it
a
possible.
Prime Minister.
No. Don't start from there.
Okay.
Start from the fact that you were able to determine who from your community should lead you or should govern you. That is the fundamental, the right for you to exercise your sovereignty and decide who should represent you, we don't have it today. And that's what killed everything. Because all the groups that call themselves parties have been captured by cliques. And these cliques determine who even gets the ticket, who goes on to contest election, and then of course the president, the government in power has the right to show whatever he likes to the INEC, and INEC will obey, even to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will obey. I had reasons to even disagree with the judgment that the Supreme Court. You know that in this onshore-offshore issue.
Yes.
The Chief Justice of the Federation had said emphatically that there can be no dispute between federating units and the Federation, because it's the aggregate boundaries of the federating units that form the boundary of the Federation. But the Supreme Court went and decided that Nigeria can have two boundaries. Because if they say my boundary is at the low water mark, that should be the boundary of Nigeria. But then there's also something called economic zone, quite a few nautical miles away, and that is Nigerian boundary. So does Nigeria have two boundaries? That is the kind of influence that a president can have, even over something like the Supreme Court that should be supreme in its decision. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't want to create that kind of a situation in which any one person, out of 96 schedule, 63 are exclusive to the federal government. Only 30 are concurrent, and concurrency means if what you want to do does not conform with what the federal government will do. So it is just handing a whole country like Nigeria to one person, prime minister. It cannot work.
All right. Your Excellency, before you go, maybe in 2 minutes, tell us about this conference next month, the conference the Patriots are organizing as part of the advocacy for this new constitution. Just give us an overview of what it will be like, what should be expected, and can an everyday Joe like me attend that conference?
It will not. I don't know if they're going to open it to everybody to come, or I'm not in the planning committee, so let me not answer yes or no to that question. But I know that what the conference aims to do is to mobilize, go to the conscience of the people, to say that you are not getting what you should get. You are not being governed the way you should be governed. Rise up and say so. And if there's a strong enough voice of the people saying we want a change, then the government, even if it was reluctant, would have to succumb. We want this change, and we want it to come from the people.
All right, thank you so much, Your Excellency Obong Victor Attah, former Governor of Akwa Ibom State, and a leading member of the Patriots, the group of elders, some of not too elder, but let me say statesmen and women, because I see some who are still quite relatively young and active in work and politics, who are trying to have a better Nigeria, and they are going to the heart of the issue, which is that they want a brand new people's constitution that would reflect the will of the people and serve the people immensely. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for coming, and hopefully, if not you, maybe as we progress in this journey, more people from the Patriots might also come to also let us know where things are. But for your time and your patience all day today, thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Right, thank you. So that has been our conversation with Obong Victor Attah, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, who's been talking to us about the Patriots and their quest for a new people's constitution for the people. I do hope you enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we are not able to get interactive, but we hope at other times, maybe His Excellency will come back, would also get interactive. He's quite energetic at his age. That's a good thing. So we'd hope to have him back very soon. But thank you so much for listening and paying attention to what we're doing. Next week, 11 a.m., we'll be back with another episode of the State of the Nation. For now, stay with us. Up next will be the news at noon, and after that, the midday show would continue. My name is Maddox Maduka Ujimadu. Thank you for listening and watching, and do have an excellent day ahead. Good morning.